I remember we were driving through the city, and my oldest son, he's 5, he had never seen a homeless person before. And he sees a homeless guy holding a sign, like, just a couple cars ahead of us, and he was like, Daddy, what's that guy's sign say? And I'm like, oh, buddy, he's homeless, he's asking for help. We could give him $1 or 2 when we drive up if you'd like to. And he's like, okay, but what does that mean? He's homeless. I'm like, oh my God, he doesn't even know. I'm like, oh, it means he lives outside. And again, my 5-year-old son, the sweetest kid in the world, is like, oh, he lives outside? Why? And I'm like, he didn't eat his vegetables. So it's something you might want to, Kids been eating broccoli by the pound ever since, so hey. My 5-year-old son also said the F word for the first time, dropped his first fuck. Someone asked me if it was the other F word. I'm like, I'm not raising 13-year-olds playing Xbox just yet. Would never let them say the other F word. What kind of house do you think I'm raising here? He said fuck, and here's the thing. I wasn't mad because he used it in the right context. The context was correct. His aunt was clearing off the table, and she moved too fast, and the French fries went all over the floor, right? There was a lot of fries, and she went like this real quick, went off the plate, fries all over the floor. My 5-year-old son looks at the floor fries, looks at his aunt, and says, "What the fuck are you doing?" And my wife was horrified, and I'm standing right next to him, and she looked at me like, "You gonna do something about that?" I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I got this. No, I got it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, those aren't leftovers now. They're floor fries. They're garbage now. Thank you for... Then later that night, he's like, "Why won't these fucking Legos stick?" And I'm like, "All right, you gotta stop. You gotta stop." 1 F word, kind of cute. 2, that's white trash. That's white trash. We gotta stop that right now. But I'll be honest with you guys, it's been a really hard year. It's been, 2022 has been the worst year of my life. Some of you are laughing already, which is fine. That's fine. I want you to laugh. It's not funny. My dad died suddenly at the end of January, so about, 8 or 9 months ago. And it's been really hard. My dad was like my hero. We were super close. We talked all the time. We lived a neighborhood apart, so I'd see him like 3 or 4 times a week. And I said it's okay that you laugh because I'm going to tell you guys some stories about my dad. And I want you to laugh because for whatever reason, there's this new thing in comedy where people take a 10-minute timeout from being funny and they get serious. It's like the real world in the 90s or something, right? Like, we're going to get real. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, but I know my dad would hate that shit. Because my dad was my biggest comedy influence, and growing up, whenever we'd watch a sitcom or like a very special Roseanne, we'd be like, fuck, just be funny, okay? Dan loses his job, Darlene ran away from home. We're like, could they just fucking yell at each other at the kitchen table like all the other weeks and be funny? Like you guys don't remember the show Roseanne. That's fine, that's fine. But yeah, so it's been hard. I've never experienced grief like this before, and it's rough, but through therapy, I'm trying to focus on the positives, And I think my dad had 4 kids who all loved and adored him so much. We're all going through hell without him, and I think that's something he should be proud of, right? He had 2 daughters. Both of my sisters are teachers. My younger brother's in medical school, right? And me, I talk about my balls in front of strangers. So, a lot to be proud of right there. And I've been doing some research. My dad died suddenly. Like, no one saw it coming, which made it really hard. But that's the number one way people want to die. They want to die in their sleep. Like, he went to bed and just didn't wake up. And I did a bunch of reading about the subject matter, and they polled a lot of people. And in the poll, that was the number one way people wanted to die, was peacefully in their sleep. So I take solace in the fact that he wasn't suffering at the end. He wasn't in a lot of pain. The interesting thing was the number 2 way people wanted to die was while having sex. That was number 2. And I'm thinking they must have only polled men. Because it's like, yeah, you went out enjoying something you love, but you fucked up sex for the other person for a little bit, right? Also, I don't think women would choose that because they know how fucked up men are, and we would probably try to finish. And anyway, I shouldn't have said we with that. They would try to finish. Those sick fucks would try to finish it. So that's why they didn't poll straight women, because they'd be like, no, we don't want to die that way. Not with those gross fucks on top of us. That'd be horrible. So yeah, I think to myself, my dad was so funny. He was such a funny guy, and that's why it was really hard for me when it happened. I took a couple months off of stand-up because I just didn't want to be around funny things because it would just make me think of my dad. And, he wasn't a comedian himself, but he could have been. He was so funny. He was quick wit, real sharp. I remember one time at dinner, this was in high school, my stepmom had come in and she was a little bit sad. And we're like, oh, what's wrong? She's like, oh, I can't make my sister's wedding. And my aunt, who I love to death, was getting married for the 3rd time. And, for whatever reason, my stepmom couldn't make her sister's wedding. She was real bummed about it. And then she's like, oh, I just feel like I should be there. And my dad, without hesitation, said, don't worry, you'll catch the next one. He was just funny as hell like that. I remember another time, my older sister came into the house. I was hanging out there. I was like 23, 24, Tuesday afternoon. So it was very weird for my sister, a teacher, to just walk through the door. She comes in and we're like, what the hell are you doing here? Shouldn't you be teaching? She said, oh, you guys didn't see? Turn on the news. There was a bomb threat at my high school. They sent everyone home, of course. And we're like, oh, that's crazy. And she goes, and Dad, get this. All of the parents came to pick up all of their kids. And it made me think, if there was a bomb threat when I was in high school, would you come pick me up, Dad? And then he goes, hell no, why would I drive towards a bomb? That makes no sense. If you called me, I would tell you to walk away from the school. Let's get you 4 or 5 blocks outside the radius. I pick you up, we have lunch. It's a great time. It's gonna be fine. And my dad was an amazing grandpa. Some people, you ever see some people and you're like, that dude was destined to be a grandpa. That was my dad. My dad went fully gray at 34. Right? I mean, he died at 67. His hair was white at that time. But you saw white hair, that's a grandpa. White hair, a little bit of a belly, big guy, 6'3". My sons loved him. They adored their grandfather. Main reason was because he was like their sugar dealer. He was the guy, I couldn't get them to eat healthy because he was sneaking them Twinkies and honey buns, all that shit. So when Grandpa came over, they just got this high instantly where they're like, fucking Grandpa's here! Let's fucking go! Right? They were getting all jacked up. They're all fucking coked up, right? They'd meet him at the fucking car door, be like, Grandpa! Come in with fucking whipped cream, Hostess all over their face. Yeah, they loved him. And my oldest son, I named after my dad, which is like the Irish Catholic way of being like, I love you, Dad, you did a good job. I would never say that to his face, but I named a kid after him to be like, see? You're good. You did good. I told someone once, I'm like, I think the last time I hugged my dad, I was 6. And they're like, oh my God, that's so sad. I'm like, no, we had a great relationship. That was our relationship. I remember when he hugged me when I was 6. I remember specifically, I had forgot my lunch at home or something, and he came into the first grade classroom, gave me the lunch, gave me a hug, and we both looked at each other like, that was fucking weird. That was weird. I think I've grown out of the hug thing. If I would have hugged him when I was randomly 27, he'd be like, do you have cancer? Why are you hugging me? Is something bad gonna happen? It was real sad, So my oldest son loved his grandpa so much, so it was really hard because he was at the age where I'm like, all right, we have to tell him. My other son was 2 at the time, so 2-year-olds don't really get death. So I had to tell my 5-year-old about death, and I'd always avoided talking about death. I remember we'd watch Lion King. I would skip the scene when Mufasa died. I'd be like, what's that? Fucking fast forward, right? I didn't want to, because I'm his Mufasa. I didn't want, him to try to kill my brother down the road for no reason. But then I thought, I'm like, he needs to watch it with that scene because one day down the road, he's going to be 10 at some party and be like, what the fuck is happening here? Is this a different cut? Not understanding why Mufasa's getting trampled, And so we always avoided talking about death. And then, I had to tell him, and it was really hard, and he wasn't quite wrapping his brain around it. And we're at the wake, Catholic wake, so open casket. We're by the coffin. And this really sucked. My sweet little 5-year-old son, he looks at his grandpa, and he looks at me, and he goes, Dad, why won't Grandpa wake up? And I was like, well, Grandpa didn't eat his vegetables. So. You guys were a lot of fun tonight. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. I'm Joe Kilgallon. Thanks again.
Joe Kilgallon, one more time, everybody. That's it. You was great. You guys did great. Give it up for yourselves. You were great.
I just can't sleep.